he snored and dreamed of bigger and better crops another year. His bad habits made Groundhog unpopular. He had no friends, and he was afraid of Quill Pig, who frequented the same field and gardens with his back full of barbed arrows, all ready to shoot. Afraid of guns, yes, and afraid of his shadow. Groundhog was without any education whatever, and his own shadow seemed to him like an enemy, dark and sinister. If Groundhog ever saw his shadow, he tried to flee from it. Of course, the shadow went everywhere with him, but when he was stealing, he seldom saw it, being concerned only with his stomach. But now, in February, when there was an occasional day of sunshine, and the warmth penetrated within Groundhog's earth bed, he would stir, yawn, feel out his empty stomach, then crawl over to his doorway and peer out. Now in February, this came to pass. There was an unexpected thaw. The sun rose earlier and set later above Temple Mountain, and shone strong upon the orchard. Groundhog felt the sun, felt his shrunken stomach, and on a day in early February, he poked his nose out of his hole. He could scarcely believe his eyes. Drip, drip came the melting drops from the icy burrows of the apple trees. He dipped upon to the snow and came to mud underneath. He ventured out a little further, then farther. Suddenly, however, he was frozen in his tracks with horror. Like a giant with open mouth and long teeth, right beside him on the snow, Groundhog saw his shadow. It looked larger and fiercer than it did last year. Not only did he see his shadow, but close behind it stood a strange creature with a sharp nose, twig hands and feet, a rakish hat on the side of its head, and a shrill voice. "Halt," said Miss Hickory. Although she stood her ground, Miss Hickory was too scared. He had never seen Groundhog before. He was as large as Mr. D. Willard Brown, and his teeth were formidable and close. Mr. Groundhog, turned and ran into the depths of his hole. He scurried. Miss Hickory ran too, now that the danger was past. She did not stop until she fairly tumbled into the feathery, cooing midst of the huddled and pheasants still living together in their Ladies' Aid Society in the shelter of the high mowing wall. society, and much less timid, spoke firmly. Do you know what happened? Groundhog went back into his hole because he saw his shadow. And what of that? Mrs. Gray could scarcely believe her ears. 6 weeks more of winter and pheasant mode. If Groundhog comes out of his hole in the sunshine so that he sees his shadow, he goes back in again. For 6 weeks longer, it snows, freezes, and blows. 6 weeks more of winter, all the hen pheasants moaned. What makes him do that? I find my shadow on a night when the moon is high, very pleasant company. Besides, Groundhog is afraid. He steals vegetables and he fancies that his shadow will never catch him. He is never out of his hole unless he is off thieving. He keeps in the shade, away from his shadow as much as he can. Miss Hickory's head ached. The matter was beyond her understanding. But of late, her stiff twig body had felt softer, her legs more nimble, and her hands more supple. It was as if a fresh sap were rising to quicken her chilly limbs. As she felt her sap rising, her nut head worked faster. And very wise of Groundhog, she took up the conversation. All thieves are afraid. Why does he steal, I ask you? Because he's hungry. What would you do for 3 meals a day if the farmer didn't leave dried corn for you here at your nest? Look at your pile of uneaten corn, and more will be left here tomorrow. Have you a plan? Had Pheasant asked. It is you hens of the Ladies' Aid Society who should know what your duty is in a case like this, she told them. Ladies' aid. Not just looking after yourselves like a lot of pigs. You mean we should give corn away? Our corn away. And why not? Show Groundhog a little neighborliness, and perhaps he will return the deed. For a space there was silence among the hen pheasants. They were thinking. It had not occurred to them to do more than to take care of themselves, but the winter had gone well with them. Although they had been deserted by their cocks, they had found sanctuary there in high mowing and had been given food regularly. Come again another day. Give us some time to think, they told Miss Hickory. It was too momentous a decision to make at once. But the next day, the icy wind kept Miss Hickory at home. There were several days of thick fog. The sun did not shine for 2 weeks. But on a cloudy day, Miss Hickory went over to the Ladies' Aid Society. As soon as they saw her, they began clucking, arguing among themselves. Hush up, she told them. This is no time to think of themselves. Winter has lasted long enough, and if anything we can do to break it, let us do it. And with that, she filled both hands with yellow kernels of corn from the hen pheasant's pile. Come on, she ordered. So each timid hen took a kernel of corn in their bill, one at a time, their president leading. They walked in a line behind Miss Hickory, away from their shelter, across high mowing, until they came to the place where Groundhog slept. They knew that was his hole, for they could hear him, his deep and regular snores. Spread the corn in front of the door, Miss Hickory told them, then run. They laid a square meal of corn in front of Mr. Groundhog's hole. Miss Hickory rapped loudly on his door, and they all scattered, but watched from a safe distance. away from his hole.